Hi, welcome back to Team Wheelsheet Reviews. This bit of kit, the new OSD, brought to you by the guys who did MWOSD. Now what they've done is packed a lot into this kit. You can see there's a lot of connections, and these connections, don't be scared, you've got voltage connections, you've got two different voltage connections, you've got your video in, video out, your camera supply in, camera supply out, you've even got your telemetry input or GPS, standalone GPS no less. So this has got a multitude of uses. Connect to your NAS, your flight controllers of various descriptions, and your NASA. There's lots of scope. How do you connect it? How do you program it? Well, what you need is one of these. Now, this is what's known as an FTD. So you can see them on eBay, about £3. This is your interface that connects this to your computer via one of these. Now, this particular one has got 5 volt and 3 volt. This uses 5 volt. What you then need is a link lead. So you need to know and check the drawings, which way is the ground, which is the DTR, and make sure you connect it properly, like so. So that is now ready for plugging into my PC. You can get these patch leads online, but I tend to make them up myself. What am I going to do then? Well, what I'm going to do, I'm going to make sure I've got the Chrome internet browser on my machine, and I'm going to go to Chrome or Google Apps. And on Google Apps, there's an app called MWOSD. And what you're going to do is download that app, and then I'm going to show you something very magical indeed. Okay, it's plugged into the laptop. Making sure I've got DTR and ground connected to the right way, DTR and ground there. Plugged it in, it should do it. If you've got a PC, then good luck. You've got to install drivers, set the drivers up. It's pretty generic, so it should see it and you won't have any difficulties. However, if you've got one like this, I had a bit of a nightmare with this because only the old PC would see it, the new stuff wouldn't do it. So my Mac wouldn't recognize it, my Windows 10 wouldn't recognize it. So this give me a bit of a headache, so forget that. Right, what we're going to do, you're going to launch Google Chrome. In the Google Chrome's apps, if you've downloaded and paid for it, you'll have the MWOSD. Launch that. Boom. You should have the USB drivers in place, so you should be selected the correct. In this case, I've got USB serial device AN9 blah 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 blah, and I'm going to use the speed as being 115,200. So I'm going to leave it that. Should be default thereabouts. Now we've got a little flash feature. So depending on what you've got this menu. You can, from the default, there's MWOSD and there's the Aeromax. In there's lots of little settings: beat to flight, clean flight, iNav, APM Pixie Hawk, multi-wii, so on, so on, so on. There's a list there. And so you can select which firmware you want, and you could flash it. It will download it online, so you've got no issues. From there, then you can select it, download it, and flash the device. I would recycle the power, plug it back in. Once you've selected what board you're going to connect to, just so that the firmware knows what it's talking to. So when you connect, it will talk to the device and it will download the firmware and recognize it with a nice GUI interface. This GUI interface, I'm not going to go through all the details, but as you can see, there's multiple tabs. So you can select the main voltage, tab, and there it says, do you want to display main voltage? How many cell count? A voltage adjustment, so you need to calibrate your voltage. So you can put adjusters there, turn that up or down to get your voltage right. Video voltage, amps, RSSI, reference voltage, call sign. I've got ASBO, so I can put ASBO and I can position in the screen. You use this section, you select the indicator that you want, and then once you've selected it, you can use the arrows up, down to position it on the screen. This is a mimic of what your OSD should look like. There's an other display, layout, heads up display, GPS settings, compass, alarms, and at the end there's an emulator. So it's quite a user-friendly GUI interface, like we would expect it to be on a Windows type machine. So it's not a problem. Once you've finished, there's a right button at the top there. So it's quite simple, hit right and it's installed on this. So I could spend hours going through different settings and different setups, but it really isn't worth it. It's so intuitive, you won't have a problem. Just plug it in, set it up, program it. If you want it to work with Betaflight, like I said, I disconnect, I can use the flash tab, I can go down to the Aeromax, and there's a Betaflight, and I can simply load online hex firmware. Clicking that button there will bring it down and it will load it on there. When it reads the OSD, when it reads the card, it will tell you in this section here that what you've got. Hardware is Aeromax version 1680, aircraft multi-rotor, option 0. Controller is set up as NASA because I've got this one specially set up. And then it tells you some other settings, what you've got on there, RSI, temp, voltage. Anyway, it's pretty, like I said, user friendly, no issues at all. There's help files on the intro page so you can go in and check. Biggest problem you'll have setting this up is getting the drivers to work. If you've got Windows, good luck. I bought this on eBay, and like I said, I will put a link down below or up above, and then but also down below. And the Aeromax, I will also put a link down below, and I will also give you some links to some of the pages where you can get diagrams to connect it. Like I said, just be careful. These are not expensive, they're very cheap, but they're far superior to the MWOSD. Far superior. So how, I hear you say, how do I connect this into my quadcopter? Now, funny you should ask that, because I've done a little video. I hope you enjoy it.